Dragon Ball Lao Su is the god of destruction. Chapter 141-160. Chapter 141. The Great Ape Transformation Failed. Earth. The place where the prince and Raditz landed in their spaceship with the devil. Sun Wukong looked at the completely demonized prince in front of him. He was surprised, and lamented that the opponent's combat power had actually increased by a bit, and he had reached the limit, and he had already used the highest 12 times the king's fist. Another unique trick that the King of Kings handed over to him, the Vitality Bomb. Exactly, the Vitality Bullet can restrain the devilish energy that burst out of the prince's body. But in the process of casting the Vitality Bomb, he needs a period of time to accumulate energy to store energy. So, Sun Wukong hurriedly shouted to the immortal turtle who showed his great power just now, asking for the support of him and others, and delaying for a little while for himself. The turtle immortal, who was hiding on the grass and didn't dare to come out, heard Monkey King's eager call, and he was stunned, thinking of the deaths of Tianjin Fanyantia and others, and stood up leisurely. Although Turtle Immortal was also inspired by Saku seeds, he was different from others because his lustful nature had always been like this, so Saku seeds did not affect his sense of justice. What to do? Immortal Turtle glanced at Sun Wukong, who was hiding in the distance, and raised his hands secretly. Although he didn't know what he was doing, he could feel that energy was constantly gathering in the latter's hands. He understood that it was the big move Sun Wukong said. He glanced at the prince who was approaching him in the sky again, and cursed. This devil Buyida is so vengeful. Didn't he just shoot him? As for forcing the old man so tightly. Yes, the devil. Immortal Turtle looked at the prince who was exuding black magic flames in the sky, and took another deep look. Since he was the devil, he could seal the waves with magic. However, I didn't bring a rice cooker. Immortal Turtle didn't stay with him when he thought of the most needed equipment to use Mofengbo, the rice cooker, and suddenly became anxious again. His eyes swept around in a panic, and suddenly he saw Pool. His eyes lit up. Got it. Hey, tell me to turn you into my favorite rainbow-colored nay to lie to me. Now, it's my turn to take care of you. Anyway, I just need to hold on to this devil Buyida for a while. At that time, Goku's big move on the top of his head should be able to destroy the prince. The turtle immortal stared maliciously at Pool, who was attached to the stone, with a wicked smile. When Pool heard Sun Wukong's words, he happened to look back to see Immortal Turtle's eyes, and suddenly he saw the situation where Sun Wukong had pinched it in his hand and turned it into a rainbow-colored inside, threw it on Immortal Turtle's face, and was almost caught by the latter. Shudder. Pool, darling, if you want to survive and avenge the tea drinking, you can honestly become a rice cooker, otherwise, the devil prince in the sky will definitely not let us all go. Turtle Immortal said to Pool coldly. The prince in the sky was completely stunned and lost his mind at this time, but as if he sensed the call of the immortal turtle, he did not find Sun Wukong hiding on the top of the mountain and quietly gathering energy, but rushed straight towards the immortal turtle and others. Okay, old pervert. You must avenge the revenge of young Master Yucha. Seeing the prince approaching, Pool thought that drinking tea was killed by the devil brought by the prince, and immediately turned into a rice cooker and fell to the ground. Okay, it's time for this old man to show his power again. Young people today can't forget their roots. After the turtle fairy finished speaking, his body suddenly grew bigger, his muscles swelled several times, and he stared at the prince who was getting closer and closer. Magic Seal Wave Seal. The turtle immortal took the opportunity to display the Magic Seal Wave Light Wave on the prince. The prince was confused and acted purely on his magical instinct, and was caught off guard by the rapidly flying light wave. Next, the body moved involuntarily. Roar. The enchanted prince let out a roar. But still to no avail. Hey, Demo, the old tradition still has a lot of skills to defeat the enemy with one move. The turtle immortal at this time is no longer as strong as before, and the strong aura that has been tempered and grown on his body can fully support the use of the magic seal wave. So, with a smug look on his face, he controlled the light wave slowly into the rice cooker that Kool had turned into. Wow, it's so hot. Kool was suddenly scalded by the rich magic flames on the prince's body and returned to his original shape. Damn it, Kool, you useless bastard, ruining the old man's business. The turtle immortal roared at Kool, who knew he had made a mistake and was hiding aside with an angry face. Puff. Controlling the prince's seal light wave, because he lost the container of the rice cooker, he was thrown into the air by the turtle fairy. The prince recovered immediately from it. Boom boom boom. The demonized prince's whole body erupted violently once again. He should have sensed the danger just now, so he was instinctively angry. Wukong, how long will it take you, boy? Immortal Turtle was very nervous and shouted at Sun Wukong in the air. Grandpa Turtle Immortal, there's still a while, and it'll be ready soon. Sun Wukong held the vitality bomb that was getting bigger and bigger on the top of his head, and said something in his mouth. Now the prince is crazy, what should I do? We can't hold him back at all, not even for a while. Huh. For a while, yes. Grandpa Turtle Immortal, you can use your previous skills to deal with werewolves, and then turn Krillin's head into a moon, so that the prince can see that he has turned into a gorilla. It should be enough to drag me out until I release it. The Turtle Immortal was at a loss after hearing this, so he simply used the dead horse as a live horse doctor, dragged out the reluctant Kaylin, and used the hypnotism technique he had used before, aiming at the prince. Teacher Wu Tian, I feel useless, let's hurry up and pretend to be dead. Anyway, this guy, as you said, is a blind man, there should be enough time for us to play hide and seek with him. Krillin kept muttering in fear. Okay, it'll be okay soon, why are you getting more and more timid? Immortal Turtle hit the prince's eyes with an invisible air current, and Keelan's bald head suddenly appeared in the prince's eyes, and the figure of the moon appeared in his chaotic mind. The demonized prince seemed to really arouse the Buyuita gene in his body and kept yelling. Gui Xianren and others thought that the plan was successful, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. However, the prince did not change anything, instead he stared at Kaylin's head eagerly and attacked. It turned out that Buyuita became a gorilla, not because he saw the moonlight, but because the moon reflected a lot of Bruce's light from the sun, and then when Buyuita saw the moon, his eyes were stimulated by the Bruce's light, which triggered nerves. Excited to transform. Therefore, Buyuita usually makes his own Bruce light to obtain the transformation condition. Boom. The demonized prince punched Krillin's head. Turtle Immortal slammed a bullet and led Kling to the side. No, failed. Chapter 142, Aftermath of the War. Sun Wuhan quickly took over Kaylin, who was suddenly attacked and was unstable. He got up and saw that behind the stone, the bruise light ball he made was still there, and he almost transformed himself. He hurriedly said to Krillin, Uncle Krillin, quickly pick up that Brut's light ball and throw it in front of the prince, it can also turn him into a gorilla. Hearing the words, Keelan immediately understood, and quickly flashed behind the stone, and hurriedly picked up the bruise ball of light. The demonized prince seemed to be obsessed with Keelan's bald head, and kept chasing after Keelan to attack. Whoosh! Seeing the opportunity, Klein threw out the bruise ball of light, which landed in front of the prince. Ah! The demonized prince seemed to be greatly stimulated and kept roaring. Suddenly, demonic flames rose and fell on his body, his breath fluctuated, and his body suddenly became larger and smaller. It seemed that the state of giant ape and the state of demonization were resisting each other and competing for control. Ah, what's the matter? Why did I wake up suddenly, and why does my body feel like this pulling? It turned out that after the prince was controlled by the demon star boss with the demon controller, he knew from the inheritance of the demons in the bloodline that after the Saku demon ancestralization, if he was controlled by the controller again, it would stimulate a period of complete demonization. The state greatly increases the combat power, but it will lose its mind and manipulate its actions entirely by magic. So, it doesn't make sense to wake up so soon. Moreover, none of these small trash fish died. The prince suddenly became bigger and smaller, and his body remained motionless, but the clear consciousness in his head observed the surrounding environment from his eyes, and suddenly felt a powerful chi condensing behind him. He turned his head to look with difficulty. Not good. That's Kakarot. In an instant, his body regained his mobility and hurriedly kept running. When Sun Wukong saw the prince turned his head and saw himself, he grinned at him and shouted loudly. Grandpa Turtle Immortal, thank you, my vitality bomb is finally healed. Boom. The huge white light ball vitality bomb was violently swung by Sun Wukong. Boom boom boom. The vitality bomb seemed to have eyes, and it bit the prince and ran, and finally swallowed the prince who was full of magic flames. What? The magic flames all over the prince were like encountering a natural enemy, and they were swallowed up by the vitality bomb all at once. Boom. The vitality bullet did not pass the prince's body, and the latter disappeared immediately. Sun Wukong stood at a high place and felt that the monstrous demonic energy carried by the prince disappeared at once, and immediately collapsed to the ground, losing his strength. Seeing this, Sun Wufan and Kaylin quickly stepped forward to help Sun Wukong and let him sit on the ground to rest. Wukong, I really have you. I don't even know how you cultivated. It's so powerful, even such a ferocious Raditz and the prince were solved by you alone. Seeing the soft Sun Wukong, Kaylin couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Sun Wukong smirked and touched his head, not knowing how to answer. The turtle immortal next to him sighed deeply. It's a pity that Tianjin rice, drink tea, and dumplings have died. And Uncle Pick, Sun Gohan added in a low voice. That's right, then there are no Dragon Balls. You can't make a wish to be resurrected if you drink tea, Tianjin rice, and dumplings. When Sun Wukong heard the words, he immediately became dejected. After a while, Kiki, Bull Demon, and Abu flew towards this side in a capsule plane. Suddenly, the plane did not know where the fault was, and a part fell out and hit the rear fin, and the rear fin suddenly cracked. The whole plane took everyone and was shaky. Here, Sun Wukong and others were exhausted at this time, and they were completely unable to exert their strength. Seeing that the plane is about to crash, the moment when the plane crashes and kills people. Suddenly a figure appeared. I saw that he was standing upright against the plane, and the inclined plane just covered his face. When Abu on the plane saw his muscular body from the window, he couldn't help but move in his heart. Good man. She thought silently in her heart. On the ground, Sun Wukong and the others looked at the broken body and bones, and they looked familiar, but what they sensed was a strange air, so they couldn't recognize who it was. The plane slowly landed on the ground, and everyone in the cabin came down one after another, thanking the benefactor. But I saw that the man turned his back and left. Suddenly, Sun Wukong shouted at the man. Prince, don't go. The man turned around, and everyone found out that it was really a prince, and quickly hid to the side in fright. Kakarot, I saved them, it has nothing to do with you, just because I don't want to kill innocent people anymore, and I don't want to see anyone get hurt again. And my self-esteem still doesn't allow it, I will lose to an inferior soldier. Therefore, when you and I meet in the future, we will still be enemies. I will definitely defeat you in an upright manner. Quote. Hey, the prince is really you. It seems that the vitality bomb really dissipated the evil energy from you. Others don't know why the prince has become the righteous appearance he is now, but Sun Wukong knows that everything is because of the characteristics of the energy bomb to expel evil and destroy evil. As for why the prince was not killed by the vitality bomb, maybe it was because Sun Wukong used the vitality bomb for the first time, and the stored energy was still too low to kill the demonized prince. Or maybe it was because the prince who completed the ancestral transformation of the Saku demon bloodline was too heavy and was directly consumed. The energy of the vitality bomb was lucky to survive. Or maybe it was because the vitality bomb did not sense the evil target after clearing the prince's evil energy, and lost his power, which saved the prince from being destroyed and escaped. In a word, the prince was a blessing in disguise. His demonic energy was wiped out by vitality bombs, and he became a Buyuida with a sense of justice. Since then, he has always been responsible for guarding the earth. However, he still can't let go of his competitive spirit with Sun Wukong. When Sun Wukong saw the prince turned around and was about to leave, he hurriedly shouted at him. "Hey, Prince, is it true that you and Raditz told Piccolo last time that he was a Namekian?" The prince turned around and glanced at Sun Wukong with great interest. "Oh, you Earthlings also want to go to Namek. With your technology, I'm afraid that when you reach Namek, you will be turned into a mass of ashes. Ha ha ha. Hey, that means you admit that Piccolo is a Namekian, so don't be afraid." "Hee hee, forget it. If you want to go to Namek, I can tell you that one of the destinations in my spaceship was set by the devil who just visited Namek. Of course, it is a pity that the spaceship has been destroyed by the Namek himself. It depends on whether you have the technology on Earth to fix it." After speaking, he turned and flew away. "Hey, stop looking down on people. The smartest girl in the world will tell you what a genius is." Abu suddenly rushed out and shouted inexplicably at the flying prince. And LT, title and GT, through Dragon Ball, I am Beerus_text chapter 141-160.txt and LT, title and GT. Chapter 143, Your Father is Your Father. Earth. The place where the prince and Raditz landed on Earth with the Majin. Why do we still come here? Abu's sister Tazy rarely came back to Earth, so Abu grabbed and ran to the suburbs together. Out of breath she climbed the last mountain, blushing at the view around her. With his feet kicking away a stone in the way, Abu raised his brows and said playfully, "Treasure hunt." Tazy looked around and saw all the charred land left after the fight. He coughed lightly. "Abu, I know a doctor who has a lot of research in ophthalmology. Take time for me to take you to see it." Quote. Abu. Abu selectively ignored Tazy, who was chirping on his back, and kept looking for it in the ruins. A few days ago, in the fight between the warriors of the Earth and the Saiyans, this land suffered a lot of pain, and now is the time to heal the sorrow, but there are always some guys who don't have long eyes, who have to do it to others. Work on the salt. Right now, Abu, for example, buried his head in the rubble to search, and even held a shovel, digging with a look of digging 3 feet into the ground. Naturally, Tazy, who was behind him, couldn't stand by and dig with other tools. He kept complaining in his heart, either he could not see the golden eggs buried under this land with the naked eye, or Abu should see an ophthalmologist. By the way, what's the name of that ophthalmologist? I don't know if it's good to make an appointment. Oops, there was a wailing from the ground, making Tazy tremble with fright. Could it be that there is really something shady in this land? When Abu heard the movement, he hurried over and lay on the ground, carefully brushing away the dirt on the ground with a small brush. Who doesn't have eyes to actually attack the noble Sakuma? A hand with its fingernails covered in mud stretched out to the ground, followed by a face. It turned out to be Bu Yida, a Saku demon who swallowed the clone of the Bohemian Blood Society. He has always been cautious, or rather timid, so when he was clamoring to challenge Kaylin, in fact, the main body has been hiding in the spaceship, just separated. 3 avatars fought. One is that he is afraid of death, and the other is that he didn't want to come to Earth at first, but the boss of Zuxing forced him to go back to Zuxing to enjoy the beauty, so he hid his body in the spaceship and waited for the opportunity to escape, but he did not expect the spaceship. Destroyed by Piccolo, he himself was destroyed because of his 3 clones, and his own strength was severely damaged, and he couldn't even compare to an ordinary Earthling. This is the drawback of Bohemian blood. So he can only start the spaceship and bury it underground, waiting for the opportunity to leave the Earth. Unexpectedly, the two of Abu came. At this time, Bu Yida's face was aligned with Abu. Abu, ellipsis quote. Bu Yida finally found a place to live. Abu rushed over excitedly, dug Bu Yida out of the ground, and put a small shovel on his neck. Where is the spaceship that fell last time? Spaceship. Falling. Bu Yida looked cute, not sure what Abu was talking about. Don't try to pretend, last time I saw a spaceship crash near here. Abu said excitedly, his eyes glowing with golden light. I didn't have any hope, but seeing you here, the spaceship must be here. Nearby. Quote. Bu Yida. Who can tell him what happened? He just accidentally fell asleep. Seeing that Bu Yida refused to explain the location of the spaceship, Abu frowned and called Tazy to take out the toolbox. The heavy toolbox was thrown to the ground by Tazy, and it was also thrown into Bu Yida's heart. I said, it's right there. Bu Yida covered his head with his hands and pointed at random. Abu nodded and asked Tazy to watch this Bu Yida and go check it himself. The ground had been made abnormally soft by the fighting that day. Abu walked to a small hill and saw that a spaceship with a partially damaged tail was parked on the hill. Abu immediately showed the rich man's eyes when he saw the treasure, ran quickly to the bottom of the pit, touched the spaceship here and there, and finally lifted the spaceship happily. Ties, take that Bu Yida back with me. Abu left a light sentence, and left with the spaceship in hand. Tazy, who fell behind, glanced at Bu Yida, who was stunned, and patted his shoulder. Abu brings out the potential every time he sees something like this. The potential is different every time. This time it's probably inspired a strong female monster. Abu took the spaceship home, but just got into the laboratory and couldn't get out. A long time ago, Abu wanted to pick up a spaceship that could travel in space. She is very interested in this kind of flying machine. Especially when the prince choked last time that the Earth was not good enough to invent spaceships, she brought Tazy herself to look for the spaceship that had suddenly disappeared. Unfortunately, the spaceship that the Saiyans rode on could not be preserved completely, either crashed and exploded, or was driven back, or was a pile of broken metal. And this spaceship was also found in the corner of the video when she was looking back at the battle record. For several days, Abu fiddled with the spacecraft at home. The spacecraft's tail was damaged, and even if the tail was repaired, it could not take off. This is embarrassing. Still not eating. Abu's father, Briff, asked Tazy once again when he saw the intact meal. Tazy pouted towards the food on the tray and whispered, "We don't dare to go in at all." Abu is addicted to the research of the spacecraft like crazy. Recently, she has been maintained by nutrient solution. Spaceship. What spaceship? Brive suddenly became interested. It's a nearly 90% complete spaceship that I picked up. Tazy said. Wait, Dad, shouldn't you be focusing on the fact that your little girl hasn't eaten for days? Dad, your focus is on the wrong side. Oh hey. I'll go see Abu. Brive walked towards the laboratory with a fatherly smile. Before entering the laboratory, a large piece of the engine was thrown at Abu's father's face, but fortunately, he quickly avoided it. Then, he shouted at the inside, Abu, what are you doing? Why can't this spaceship be started? Abu stuck his head out with a pitiful look on his face. I tried almost all the engines I could find, but there was no way to start this machine. Are you stupid? How can a spaceship capable of navigating the universe use an ordinary engine? Brive stepped forward and patted the spaceship with a look of disgust. I remember buying a super quantum engine when I was young. Brive went to the corner to look for things. It seems that some cosmic person sold it to me. Spaceman. Abu was a little surprised when he heard it. What's the matter with the cosmic people? People can also do business. Brive noticed Abu's strange eyes, explained with a light cough, and then took out the gravity device engine. He took the super quantum device engine and walked to the spaceship, picked up the screwdriver from the ground, and installed it. Seeing his father's random installation method, Abu's face was full of doubts. Are you sure this is okay? Of course you can try it. Brive looked proud. You have to always remember that your father will always be your father. Oh, Abu didn't believe his father at all. After all, the person who littered the super quantum device engine should not be a big guy. However, in order to take care of the old man's face, Abu still tried to launch the spacecraft. Sure enough, the spacecraft did not move at all. Abu thought for a while, thinking about how to comfort his father. However, the accident happened suddenly. The spaceship vibrated violently, and then turned off, just as Abu picked up the words to comfort his father. The spacecraft took off, and the indicators showed normal. I said, "Your father is your father." A voice came from Brive's mouth. Chapter 144. Going to Namek. To Namek. Tazy, who has traveled in the galaxy for a long time, relying on interstellar work for a living, quickly and proficiently found the coordinates of Namek from the restored spaceship. It was the previous boss on the Demon Star who ordered a group of propaganda teams to transfer to the Northern Galaxy Company and take the seat Mark left when they arrived at Namek by spaceship. After Abu learned that Tazy had set the route for the spacecraft to arrive at Namek, he flew up immediately. He didn't eat or drink for a few days and finally it was not in vain. Seeing that Saiyan named Prince was so snarling, he couldn't wait for the whole universe. Only they Saiyans are the most amazing. Che, at the beginning, I thought that the prince's conscience found out that he saved us. However, after the prince changed his ways, he was really manly. Forget it, let's hurry up and tell Sun Wukong the news. Their father and son will be very happy when they hear it. At this time, Baozi Mountain. Sun Wukong is constantly training Sun Wuhan's various fighting skills. He found that after his last fight with the prince and the others, his combat power had doubled to 10 million. However, he can't use the high multiplier World King Fist. In the current state, he can barely use 8 times, as if he is stuck in a bottleneck. So, he simply concentrated on training son Gohan. Gohan, you are standing here. Dad, I am throwing stones at you here. You have to dodge quickly tilde. Sun Wukong drew 2 white lines on the ground separated by more than 1 meter, and instructed Sun Wufan to stand behind that line, while he stood behind the other white line. Okay, Dad, come on, I have received a lot of training on the evil star. Sun Wufan said arrogantly, as if he had forgotten the pain of having no meat to eat in the demon star. Snapped. Clap clap. Clap clap clap. A few back and forths of courtesy, and neither side was hurt. Boom. Bang 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 bang. Sun Wukong's hand speed gradually increased, and Sun Wufan gradually couldn't keep up with the rhythm. Boom. Sun Wufan's head was hit with a big bag. He touched the big bag on his head, grinned in pain, and said miserably, "Dad, you're too unprofessional. Some light, some heavy, you can't compare to Uncle Beck." Speaking of the back, the voice became more and more low, and Sun Wuhan remembered Piccolo who died for him with the bullet, and the atmosphere was low. "Ah, I'm sorry, Gohan, Dad couldn't control himself, he regarded you as an opponent." Sun Wukong touched his head embarrassedly and said embarrassedly. Ding. Tintin ling ling. The phone inside the house rang. Kiki, who was cooking in the house, took it in one go. Hey, who? Chi-Chi, let Sun Jun answer the phone. Who are you? I'm Abu. Okay, you will wait. Wukong, Wukong, Sun Wukong. Abu called you. Okay, now, hey, Abu, what's the matter? Oh, I just want to tell you that the spaceship that the prince brought here this time, we have repaired it, and now we can go to Namek. Wow, that's amazing, as expected of Abu. Then did you inform Krillin and the others? I don't know if they will go or not. Not yet, you are the first to call. Okay then, Gohan and I are going to inform them. Beep. Let's go, Gohan, let's go to the old grandpa's house. Sun Wukong shouted the name of Sun Wufan, and the two got up and flew into the sky. Hey, you two are not eating. Chi-Chi rushed out of the room and shouted to them, but no one could see it. Turtle Fairy House. Grandpa Turtle Immortal, are you really not going? Sun Wukong asked sincerely, looking at Turtle Immortal who was lying on the sofa and watching the beauties on TV. Forget it, I've been tossed enough by a little devil, and I won't be involved in your cosmic affairs. Turtle Immortal was not at all embarrassed to mention his scandal, and suddenly whispered into Sun Wukong's ear. Hey, Wukong, if you want to leave, take Kelling with you too. This kid has become very timid since last time. He is scared to death of a mouse when he passes by, so I want you to take him to the universe to grow and grow. Insights. Yeah, Krillin's exclamation sounded outside the door, and he was frightened by another passing mouse. After knowing Wukong's purpose, Keelan immediately packed his bags and decided to follow him to Namek. He thought, the universe is said to be a vacuum, so there should be no such terrifying mice. The three quickly flew to Abu's house in the western capital of the earth. Originally, Sun Wukong was thinking of calling Tianjin rice and drinking tea, but then he suddenly remembered that the two of them had died, and he couldn't help but feel depressed and his flight speed increased a lot. Abu's father, Abu's mother, we meet again. This is my son Sun Gohan, this is Kaylin. Sun Wukong saw old acquaintances, greeted them one by one, and introduced them to the people around him. Yeah, Wukong has such an old son, I still want to date you. Abu's mother covered her mouth and smiled. The crowd soon came to the spaceship park, and Abu was still resting upstairs. By the way, Dad Abu, can you add a gravity device to our spacecraft? That's it. Sun Wukong suddenly pulled Brive aside and asked secretly. He remembered the benefits he gained from the high-gravity environment during training on Zhuang, and couldn't help but want to use the time of space voyage to strengthen his exercise. Oh, okay, this is very simple. After listening to Wukong's description, Brive agreed. How many days? 3 days. 3 days later. Monkey King, Sun Gohan, and Keelan packed their bags and were ready to set foot on the spaceship and head to Namek. Suddenly, a figure broke into Abu's house. It was the prince. He also held a demon in his hand. Hey, prince, how did you find this place? Sun Wukong asked curiously. Ah, it was you, no wonder I couldn't find anyone after looking for you for a few days. Abu looked at the demon who was thrown to the ground by the prince with a surprised expression. It was Buyuida who had slipped away from Abu's house. Hey, this kid is a demon and wants to do bad things on Earth. I just happened to be caught by me. I was wondering why I couldn't find a spaceship. After interrogating this kid, I found out that you have repaired it and released it back. You will die if you do bad things. The prince crushed the demon Buyuida a little, and then looked at Monkey King and the others and said. It looks like you are going to go to Namek. Yes, what's the matter, Prince, you want to go too? Of course. I won't go, you are not afraid that after you leave, I will destroy the Earth. Hey, you won't do this now. Stop talking nonsense, Kakarot. After the prince finished speaking, he stepped onto the spaceship arrogantly. Hey, Saiyan, if you want to go, I'll go. Abu next to him immediately packed his luggage and boarded the spaceship first. Abu, why are you going too? Krillin's face was full of doubts, and he asked in disbelief. Nonsense, with these two militants here, if one day the spacecraft is damaged, who can repair it without me? I'm going to save your life. Abu Sa'id proudly, his eyes rolled, and he didn't know what to think. In this way, 5 people set foot on the spacecraft and went to Namek. Chapter 145, Going to Namek. Tazy, who has traveled in the galaxy for a long time, relying on interstellar work for a living, quickly and proficiently found the coordinates of Namek from the restored spaceship. It was the previous boss on the Demon Star who ordered a group of propaganda teams to transfer to the Northern Galaxy Company and take the seat Mark left when they arrived at Namek by spaceship. After Abu learned that Tazy had set the route for the spacecraft to arrive at Namek, he flew up immediately. He didn't eat or drink for a few days and finally it was not in vain. Seeing that Saiyan named Prince was so snarling, he couldn't wait for the whole universe. Only they Saiyans are the most amazing. Che, at the beginning, I thought that the prince's conscience found out that he saved us. However, after the prince changed his ways, he was really manly. Forget it, let's hurry up and tell Sun Wukong the news. Their father and son will be very happy when they hear it. At this time, Baozi Mountain. Sun Wukong is constantly training Sun Wuhan's various fighting skills. He found that after his last fight with the prince and the others, his combat power had doubled to 10 million. However, he can't use the high multiplier World King Fist. In the current state, he can barely use 8 times, as if he is stuck in a bottleneck. So, he simply concentrated on training son Gohan. Gohan, you are standing here. Dad, I am throwing stones at you here, you have to dodge quickly tilde. Sun Wukong drew 2 white lines on the ground separated by more than 1 meter, and instructed Sun Wufan to stand behind that line, while he stood behind the other white line. Okay, Dad, come on, I have received a lot of training on the evil star. Sun Wufan said arrogantly, as if he had forgotten the pain of having no meat to eat in the demon star. Snapped. Clap clap, Emperor of the universe longing for immortality. Deep in the universe. Whoosh. A light and shadow flashed. It was the god of destruction and Wes. In the spaceship below, 2 people suddenly floated out. The god of destruction, Angel Wes, and Lyra, the king of the Western realm, salute you both. The god of the Western realm bowed down with a flat face and saluted the 2 in front of him. Approaching, the Kurdish king beside him hurriedly bent down and said nervously. Lord Destruction, Lord Weiss, subordinate Kurd, say hello to the 2 adults. Where's Brawley? The god of destruction agreed indifferently, and then asked Layla, the god of Western realm. My lord, Brawley was in a frenzy just now, so Lyra used mana to seal him up. Layla still said without a wave. Okay, I'll borrow it first and use it, and I'll give it back to you later, so you can take him to train. The god of destruction waved a hand behind Layla, and a small mustard ball flew into her hand. Inside was a miniature version of Brawley, who was soundly asleep. Respectfully send the 2 adults away. Kurd secretly wiped a sweat and watched the god of destruction and Weiss disappear. Ho ho ho, Lord God of Destruction, look at this Brawley, lying in a mustard seed ball is quite cute, not as violent as usual. Weiss held the mustard ball in his hand and looked at it carefully, shaking it from time to time to see if Brawley inside would wake up. Okay, Weiss, if you want to keep this guy as a pet, you have to let me use him up first. The god of destruction pierced Weiss's mind at once, and a wicked smile appeared on his mouth. Okay, then, let's see what the god of destruction is going to do. Hey, it must be a good show. Whoosh. The 2 flashed again. Actually came to the top of the spaceship of the Emperor of the Universe. The 2 did not show up, and the god of destruction suddenly threw a ball towards the spaceship, which was the mustard ball containing Brawley. Wake up, legendary Super Saiyan. Roar. A violent roar rang out. It was Brawley who escaped from the mustard ball. He was finally free. His purple arrogance skyrocketed, Xuanchao's violent nature was fully revealed, and he couldn't control himself to destroy everywhere. No, Lord Universe Emperor, there is an enemy attack. Hey, can you knock on the door when you come in? What's the fuss, how many people are there? Report to the Emperor of the Universe, the other party is alone. Oh, hey, I'd like to see which guy with short eyes dares to cause trouble with me. By the way, how long will the Genuit team be back? Report to the Lord of the Universe, the Genuit team just notified the base of the coordinates, and has returned from the Nambide planet triumphantly, and will be able to return to the base in less than 3 hours. Okay, then it seems that I have to eliminate this troublemaker myself. Hey, you guys really won't share my worries. The Emperor of the Universe floated out of the house with the seat, and when he passed the reporter, a red light flashed in his eyes, and with a bang, the reporter's body shattered and turned into a ball of fireworks. HMPH, useless guy. Boom. Boom boom boom. Brawley couldn't hold back his manic mood and wanted to destroy the spaceship of the Emperor of the Universe. Oh hoo, it's you really make me nauseous. The Emperor of the Universe was sitting on a chair, looking at Brawley's back. A light shot from his eyes and hit Brawley. Brawley turned around quickly, his pupils were colorless, like empty eye sockets, staring viciously at the Emperor of the Universe, constantly roaring and venting. Beep beep, boom. The combat power meter actually exploded. This is specially made by me to test my own strength. The Emperor of the Universe stood up abruptly from his seat and looked at Brawley solemnly. It seems that you have some skills, much more powerful than the two idiots Dodoria and Sabo, just because the two of them are not by my side, otherwise you can be my #1 assistant. Oh hoo, I rarely take the initiative to invite others. Oh, best, don't reject me. Boom. Brawley blasted a laser in response. Hee, since you choose to toast instead of fines, then I'll give you a welcome gift. No one has seen you except my father. The Emperor of the Universe dodged away from the spot, and suddenly his body changed, turning into a short and capable little man with white body. Hey, it's hard for me to control my power like this, you have to be careful. Snapped. The Emperor of the Universe's tail rolled around Brawley, who was dodging behind him. Dong dong dong. The Emperor of the Universe, who thought he had the upper hand, was suddenly picked up by Brawley's tail, and he kept smashing towards the ground. Puff. Unable to struggle, the Emperor of the Universe used a laser to cut off his tail and escaped. He looked at Brawley in horror in his eyes, and was surprised that Brawley's extraordinary strength could completely crush himself in his ultimate form. Boom. Brawley instantly flashed to the Cosmic Emperor, who was in a daze, and grabbed the latter's body with both hands. Brawley's mission was to clamp the body of the Emperor of the Universe, as if he was about to burst the latter. The Emperor of the Universe was completely desperate and fell into deep fear. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from the air. Okay, Brawley, come back. As soon as the voice fell, Brawley, who was dancing violently, shrank instantly and poured into a small ball. The Emperor of the Universe suddenly recognized the owner of the voice. Lord of Destruction, you saved me, thank you Lord of Destruction. Hey, don't be too busy to thank you, I just want you to see the nightmare in your heart, the legendary Super Saiyan, a demon you can never beat. Ha. After speaking, the sound disappeared. Only the Emperor of the Universe was left alone on the tattered spaceship in a daze. Forever. God of Destruction, as a god of destruction, isn't it because of your long life that you have such a huge combat power? I want forever. I want to live forever. When the time comes, let's see who can beat me, the King of the Universe. Chapter 146. Namek's Dragon Ball. The Seventh Universe. Interstellar. Unknown depths. Above a blazing, crumbling ship. The Emperor of the Universe, this is the probe you want. An alien wearing a battle suit tremblingly handed the brand new probe in his hand to the Emperor of the Universe. At this time, the Emperor of the Universe has returned to his normal appearance, but the scars from the fight with Brawley still exist, and he looks a little embarrassed. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he swept away the detector handed over by the little minion, and turned to leave. It's dangerous, it's the first time I've seen the Emperor of the Universe so angry. The little scoundrel was obviously relieved, and eased from the depressed atmosphere just now. Snapped. A tail swept like lightning. Suddenly, a piece of flesh and blood appeared on the ground. Humph! My King of the Universe has never spoken. Since I have transformed here today, there can be no more living people here. As soon as the words fell, the Emperor of the Universe jumped up and slammed the spaceship with 4 toes. The fire on the spaceship suddenly became violent, and countless tongues of flame burst out. Boom! A laser shot from the Cosmic Emperor's fingertips, instantly piercing the spaceship. The purple-red flames opened their mouths sharply, swallowing the entire spaceship, and there were countless short and tragic mourning. Then, a huge roar sounded. Oh ho, lighting fireworks or something, really is the best way to reuse waste. After the Cosmos Emperor finished speaking, his eyes turned cold, his whole body trembled, and he clenched his teeth and said viciously. Damn God of Destruction, and that disgusting green-headed Super Saiyan. You wait for me, and when I, the King of the Universe, gain immortality, I will naturally take care of you slowly. So, how to get eternal life? The Kurdish guy seems to have said that there seems to be a person called Planet Atrad in this universe. He has a very long history and has all kinds of strange skills and talents. Maybe, the method of immortality can be obtained from the planet Atrad. The Cosmic Emperor floated in the cosmic space, thinking about it, thinking of clues that he might obtain immortality. Beep beep. A communication tone came from the detector. The base. I'm Ginyu, the captain of the Ginyu Special Forces. Please tell the communication department to the King of the Universe. We will arrive at the base spaceship in a few and a half hours. Please make the King of the Universe wait for us to report the good news to him in person. Quote. Boss, why is there only one signal on the channel at the base? Yeah, shouldn't the Emperor of the Universe leave the base again and go somewhere else? ... Cough cough. It's the Ginyu Special Forces. Thank you for your hard work. After waiting for a long time, the Emperor of the Universe finally caught a breath and interjected to answer. It turned out to be the Emperor of the Universe. The subordinates could not recognize it. Please forgive me. Wow, it's actually the Emperor of the Universe. Boss, quickly release the call signal. Let me report to the king. Yes, you can't be the boss alone every time. ... These idiots still have so much nonsense. Listening to the noisy voice in his ears, the Emperor of the Universe looked cold, and couldn't help shouting. Enough. Shut up all of you. Ginyu, take a few of them to a planet called Atrad. Remember, don't kill all the people on that planet, save it for the king to come over. Ginyu obeys. The King of the Universe Emperor. I am Gildo, please allow me to sing an ode to joy on the occasion of my parting, to wish our Universe Emperor army a successful next journey. Go away. The Emperor of the Universe watched the signals of several people belonging to the Ginyu Special Forces on the probe drifting farther and farther, and his expression gradually improved. It is time for this group of idiots to change. Beep beep. Another call came from the detector. The face of the Cosmos Emperor suddenly became unnatural. Could it be those guys again? The King of the Universe, I'm Sabo. Are you still at the base? Dodoria and I are coming to pick you up, and by the way, I have good news to report to you. Moody, so there's no such thing as a no signal on base. Okay, come here quickly, but I said in advance that if I'm not interested in what you guys will tell me later, then you too. Hee hee. The Cosmic Emperor's tone was gloomy and cold, and he was hit by bad luck one after another. Now is the time to be angry. After an hour. In another spaceship. The Emperor of the Universe sat on the suspended seat and looked at the two fat and thin people in front of him, Dodoria and Sabo with interest, and said slowly. You two mean that the Namekians have a strange bead that grants all wishes, and you heard it from this demon. After the Cosmos Emperor finished speaking, his eyes rolled, and he landed on the purple-skinned demon who was lying on the ground and trembling in front of him, with an evil smile on the corner of his mouth. Sabo, tall and mighty with a handsome face, came out and replied. Yes, the King of the Universe, Dodoria and I will follow your instructions and go to Namek to find the whereabouts of the two Saiyans, Prince and Raditz. Because Namek is located in the edge of the universe, our cosmic emperors have always known very little about this planet, only that the Namekians are good at fighting. As a result, we encountered this group of demons in the middle of the attack. Dodoria and I defeated them, leaving only this one alive, and learned that they had just escaped from Namek, saying that the Nameks relied on a dragon named Dragon Ball. Stuff, Wish defeated them. Sabo thinks it's strange, and the spaceship is not far from the base, so he went back to ask you for instructions. After hearing this, the Emperor of the Universe showed a playful look on his face, looked at Sabo and Dodoria, who were slightly sloppy in front of him, and said, Oh, hey, to make Sabo, who loves beauty so much, be so embarrassed, it seems that our Mr. Sabo has been forced to transform by this group of demons, so their fighting power is not bad. Then, those Namek stars, if people really rely on that thing called Dragon Ball to defeat demons, then the ability of this Dragon Ball makes this king very interested. Hee hee, it really doesn't take much effort. A bead that can make a wish, I wonder if it can make this king get his wish and get eternal life. A look of excitement flashed on the face of the Emperor of the Universe inadvertently. He immediately restrained, and the sharp voice poured into the ears of the devil below. Hey, the one lying on the ground, tell this king carefully all the information you know about Namek. Maybe, this king will let you go. Hearing the words, the demon on the ground shrugged, and he felt that the little man in front of him was too terrifying, more terrifying than everyone he had seen before, and even more powerful than the two who killed all the demon companions in the team just now. Well, esteem, Your Majesty. Chapter 147, What an Ugly Dance. It turned out that this demon was the one sent by the demon star to Namek to replace the demon team that was killed by the two princes. A month ago, this pair of demons arrived at the Northern Galaxy Company. Because this group of indigenous demons did not know how to operate spaceships, the Northern Galaxy Company sent people to accompany them. After arriving at Namek, they sailed back. After all, it is useless to leave such a high-end spaceship to a group of bumpkins. The drivers accompanying the Northern Galaxy Company left only a few simple spaceships for the demons to use. And the group of demons, when they reached Namek, began to look around for the local indigenous Nameks. They didn't know that on Namek at this time, there were only 2 elders and Naru left. After a few days, when they finally found Nilu, Nilu had gathered all the Dragon Balls and wished that the Dragon Balls would seal them. Because Nilu has been told by the elders that the demons who came this time are much more powerful than the previous ones, and if no measures are taken, it will only attract more demons, so let him ask Shenlong for help. And Shenlong was born with the power to seal the ancient demons, so he caught the demons in front of him all at once. The rest of the demons who escaped by hiding on the side were left with lingering fears after witnessing the whole process, and hurriedly escaped in the simple spaceship left by the Northern Galaxy Company. As a result, because they really didn't know how to operate, the spacecraft sailed aimlessly rampaging through space. Finally, a few days later, they collided with the spaceship that Sabo and Dodoria were on. The two sides fought fiercely, and as a result, a group of demons were all killed by the transformed Sabo, leaving only one alive to probe for information. The Emperor of the Universe sat on the floating seat, and listened to the devil's story about the whole process, thoughtful. After a while, he said to Sabo, "You go to contact the Genuit team and let them rush to Namek at full speed. Planet Adadella can go to the next time." Sabo obeys. The Emperor of the Universe looked at the back of Sabo's departure, turned and glanced at the purple demon on the ground that was shivering, with an evil smile on the corner of his mouth, and said to Dodoria, "Dodoria, don't be idle. Since this guy is so cooperative with the work of this king, let him die like a gentleman." "Thank you, the Emperor of the Universe." "No." Just as the purple demon was about to jump up and struggle, Dodoria laughed and grabbed it, and then slammed it into pieces. Seeing this, the Emperor of the Universe said coldly, "Let's go, let this king see the so-called Dragon Ball that can satisfy all wishes, and see if it can satisfy this king's wish of immortality." With an order, the spacecraft drove at a high speed and approached Namek rapidly. On an unknown planet in the universe. Beep beep. Sound from the detector. "Okay, little Sabo, Ginyu should obey the order of the King of the Universe King and lead the Ginyu Special Forces to Namek soon. Please be sure to tell the King of the Universe King, the Ginyu Special Forces will welcome the arrival of the King on Namek." Ginyu, the captain of the Ginyu Special Forces, had just received the order of the Emperor of the Universe as relayed by Sabo. The rest of the team members next to him, because they were ordered to close the communication channel by Ginyu, didn't know who their boss was talking to at this time, and what he said in detail. All of them looked at Ginyu with confusion and curiosity. "Boss, is it Sabo who is next to the King of the Universe? What did he say? Does the King of the Universe want to see our dance again?" "Gildo, stop talking and give me the Star Navigator." Ginyu turned around and snatched a small square electronic screen from the short, fat man beside him. "Didi, look for Namek." "Please wait. Namek, located in the 1380 ETM area in the northern part of the Milky Way. The coordinates. The coordinate transmission is completed. The owner can go to the spacecraft cockpit to verify. Boss, are you going to Namek? There, didn't the king send the Saiyans over there a few days ago? Asked a member of the Ginyu Special Forces with long silver hair. Hey, Saiyans, how can those guys be able to do great things? I've heard that the Namekians are good at fighting, so how could those scoundrels be opponents? The boss is right, our Ginyu Special Forces are the elites of the elite of the Cosmic Emperor Corps, the Super Ace Force. Otherwise, the few of us will practice the cheerleading dance we just made up, and then perform it for the king. After that, the 5 Ginyu Special Forces members were all around the spaceship, dancing as if they were no one else. Whoosh, a light and shadow flashed. It was the god of destruction and Weiss, this is the Keflan star that you said has a taste that is only a little worse than the food on Earth. Ho ho ho, the god of destruction, it's not like you often forget about the Loon family when you can't sleep, so don't doubt the memory of the Loon family. Weiss held the tin stick, tapped his chin with his fingers, and looked around. Like trying to find the food in memory. Yeah, god of destruction, look at those people. What an ugly dance. Chapter 148. Soul Exchange. The god of destruction followed the direction of Weiss's finger and looked and found that these 5 strange people were the 5 members of the Ginyu Special Forces who followed the Emperor of the Universe in the original book. When he saw one of them, his eyes suddenly lit up, and there was a playful look on his face. At the same time, when the Aborigines of the surrounding planets heard Weiss's words, they immediately showed such expressions and expressed their approval. The 5 members of the Genuit team were flushed with anger, and the tall man with bulging eyes like a frog came out and said to Weiss. Hey, the woman holding the cat, because of how beautiful you are, our dignified Genuit team will spare you once. Apologize to us. The surrounding alien aboriginal heard the person who claimed to be a member of the Genuit team, and immediately dispersed, leaving the huge square empty. When Weiss heard the words, he still stood still, pursed his lips and smiled, and did not answer. Because the god of destruction has already rushed over. Boom. A lump of meat. Damn frog eyes, Lao Tzu is the god of destruction, what a cat. The reincarnated god of destruction hated others to call him a cat. Now that the Genuit team touched his reverse scales, he was naturally bombarded to death. Die again. Lord God of destruction, be gentle. The Loon family is still here, and I want the Loon family to come and wipe your ass again. Ho ha ho ho. After Weiss finished speaking, he raised his tin stick and pointed to the ground, and the pool of blood disappeared instantly. Huh. What kind of magic is this? Said Dumpty Gildor, shrinking back, tremblingly. Gildo, if you don't dare to fight, just hide on the side, I will avenge your dead comrades. The other 2 members of the Genuit team came out suddenly, and attacked the god of destruction with imposing momentum. Hey, I was impulsive. A thing that can be done with a fingernail, I have to rush over to fight him. Really lose my identity. The god of destruction sighed suddenly, and when the 2 of the Genuit team attacked, there was a sadness in his eyes, and he snapped his fingers abruptly. Boom. Boom. The 2 fast-flying Genuit team members were suddenly blown to pieces inexplicably. Open black lens bracket. What kind of move is this? They were all killed with just a snap of their fingers. Close black lens bracket. Ginyu, who was watching, was stunned, hid behind Gildo, sneaked into the small round spaceship, and flew away in a hurry. Time stands still. Seeing this, Gildo next to him also planned to hide in the spaceship and leave according to the law, but he was closer to the god of destruction than Ginyu. Hey, this kind of trick is still coming. The god of destruction yawned, then sneezed abruptly, spraying directly at the short and fat Gildo. Gildo was holding his breath with his mouth wide open, when he was suddenly sneezed by the sneeze, and instantly turned into powder. Yo, it runs very fast, this spaceship has good performance. The god of destruction looked at the spaceship Ginyu was riding, like a spot of light gradually disappearing in the sky. Whoosh. A figure flashed by. The god of destruction dropped Whis, used a teleport, and floated directly into space, suddenly appearing outside the Ginyu spacecraft. Ginyu looked at the god of destruction with a horrified expression across the glass warehouse, and suddenly clenched his teeth and shouted. Change. An invisible light shrouded the god of destruction through the glass. Hey, it's you who waited. The god of destruction had a wicked smile on his face, and he didn't even try to hide, he was directly attacked. The light hit the god of destruction's body, and there seemed to be mysterious energy pulling the two's bodies. The god of destruction knew that it was the power of soul exchange. He was immersed in this power, and slowly comprehended the rules. He actually realized it slowly. Sure enough, he could learn this move faster by directly experiencing it himself. He manipulated the Ginyu body that he just exchanged like flowing water, and the god of destruction understood that it was all the credit of Zizai extreme intentional gong, which was brought along with his soul. On the other hand, Ginyu, who entered the body of the god of destruction, was like a marionette out of control, barely able to move. As expected, Ginyu, who had switched bodies, was like the original, like a skinny baby wielding a huge plumb bob. Seeing this, the god of destruction sneered in his heart, and a ray of light shot out from his fingertips and hit Ginyu. In an instant, Ginyu shrank into a small ball. Whoosh! Whis teleported over, took the mustard ball with the body of the god of destruction, and the voice of the god of destruction came from his mind. Hey, Weiss, you're too slow. You take good care of my body for me first. I'm going out alone to do something interesting, so don't come with me. Otherwise, I'll kill you. You. Whis looked at the spaceship that flashed into a ray of light in the universe, and understood that it was the spaceship driven by the god of destruction, and sighed in his heart. Lord God of Destruction, let the Loon family stay alone in the empty room again. Ho ha ho ho, the Loon family can buy a lot of cosmetics in an open and honest way. And rag dolls. Asterisk. Chapter 149, A Month's Journey. The Seventh Universe. Northern Galaxy. A huge spaceship is traveling at the speed of light, heading for Namek. On the spaceship, a woman with dark blue hair came out of the bathroom wrapped in a bath towel wet, and shook off the towel to wipe her hair, saying, Hey, those two Saiyans haven't come out yet. How many days has it been? The person who spoke was naturally Abu, and the 5 of them had been floating on the spacecraft for more than 10 days at this time. When the little boy Son Gohan heard the words, he grabbed the hair on his head and said lightly, Auntie Abu, I am still a child. I don't care if you dress like this, but the Saiyan prince inside is single. Or, Auntie Abu, you did it on purpose. Kaylin on the side heard it, and secretly nodded in agreement. When Abu heard the bang, he punched Son Gohan and Kaylin with a punch, and roared sharply. Son, go, Fan, how many times have I told you, I'm called elder sister, called elder sister. No, but my father said that Abu must be called auntie, otherwise it will mess up the seniority. Sun Wufan's soft and waxy voice came. Che, your father's head can think of this. I'm too lazy to care about you two brats. Abu picked up the towel on the ground and wiped his hair. Sitting on the soft seat sofa, the spring light was looming. Boom. Boom. Bang bang bang. On the floor where Krillin and others were on the spaceship, there was a sudden sound of a violent beating. The 3 of Keelan were not surprised, but Abu Yu said. Fortunately, Dad knows a lot of aliens, and the materials installed on this spaceship are all of the top hardness in the universe. Otherwise, the 2 guys would have been torn apart long ago. How can they insist on reaching Name for a month? Nemesis. The 2 guys that Abu blamed were naturally Sun Wukong and the prince who insisted on following up. The 2 of them are currently training against each other in the supergravity space room that Monkey King specially asked Abu's father Brive to install. Hey, Prince, can you still do it? If you can't, just give up. It's 500 times the gravity here. Stop chattering, Kakarot, you're not much better than Lao Su. The prince sat on the ground, panting and wiping sweat, said slowly. Hey, let's play again. Sun Wukong's tired body was actually excited again, and his eyes were full of anticipation. Idiot, don't look around. Even if you Earthlings use the most advanced cosmic materials to repair and improve this spaceship, let's continue like this. This spaceship will be completely finished before tomorrow. Prince Shang in a fool-like talking, he roared. Oh, why don't I think of another way? Sun Wukong was yelled at by the prince. His face was not sullen, he sat directly on the ground, rubbed his head and thought seriously, and suddenly there was a gurgling sound in his stomach. Ah. I'm hungry. Forget it, Prince, let's go up and fill our stomachs. Cut. The prince followed Sun Wukong up and said in his heart, this guy Kakarot is so much lower in combat power than this prince, why is he more relaxed than me in the gravity field? This guy's body is how much power is hidden in it. On the spaceship, the two Earthlings, Keelan and Abu, quickly finished their meal, and sat at the dining table watching Sun Wukong, the prince, and Sun Wufan feasting. Krillin thought that Wukong and the prince were training hard below, and it was easy to say that they had a big appetite. Why would a kid like Gohan follow him in a daze and eat so much? Saiyans are really foodies. With his mouth full of food, Sun Wukong glanced at Krillin and Gohan, and suddenly said, yeah, Prince, I thought about it. We can fight with our mind, so that we won't destroy the spaceship. At this time, the prince also had a huge chicken leg in his mouth, his face full of confusion, and he said vaguely. Huh, what, do you want to fight? It was taught to us by the gods on earth. We can use our thoughts to transform into clones and fight in each other's minds instead of the main body. Sun Wukong swallowed everything and said eloquently. After eating, let's rehearse, and you will. Moment. The four of them sat around the empty space of the spaceship, closing their eyes and meditating. Mr. Prince, you are so stupid, why haven't you turned into a clone yet? HMPH, brat, wait and see. Abu was idle and bored, and sat on the side watching the other four sitting still, engaged in the so-called mind battle. After a while, Kaylin gasped and withdrew from the chaos. Then, Son Gohan also took a few deep breaths and quit the battle. Only Monkey King and the prince were left frowning and fighting each other in their minds. Hey, it's so boring, to actually leave this beautiful girl aside. There are still more than half a month, how should I endure it? Abu sighed softly beside him. Chapter 150, Sudden Spaceship. Sun Wukong and the prince frowned, and they were still fighting a fierce battle of wills. I am a beautiful girl and no one pays attention. The more Abu Sa'id, the more bored he became, and he touched his beautiful face in annoyance. Could it be that I am so beautiful that they are afraid to like me without looking at me? It must not be that I am unattractive. As he spoke, he smiled without speaking, shook his head, and no longer paid attention to the two of them. Abu slowly relaxed his body and lay down, resting his slender arms under his head, watching the spaceship go on, and pondering. Where is Dragon Ball? When will it get to Namek, and what is waiting for us there? Everything is still unknown. The car must have a way to the front of the mountain, so don't think about it, it will add trouble to yourself. Abu watched Sun Wukong and the prince, who were all focused on the competition of wills. Due to the long time, the two people's strength gradually became weak, and the breath was also a little unstable. But holding a sigh of relief, the two of them still held on. Neither of them would admit defeat, and pea-sized tears slowly flowed down their foreheads. The prince clenched his hands into fists, and his body followed with force. And the Sun Wukong on the opposite side is not much better at the moment. He was sweating profusely, wiping his forehead constantly, as if he had just experienced a cosmic battle. Keelan and Son Gohan, who had just withdrawn from the will competition, watched nervously beside them. The two walked around beside Sun Wukong and the prince, and they were a little impatient. But Abu didn't say much, as if he didn't worry about what would happen between them. He waved to Keelan and Son Gohan. What are you two worried about? Come here, come and sit with my sister, dangling there. Don't talk about them. I am dizzy looking at them. They are not children, and they are not playing with their lives. naturally in my heart there are numbers. After speaking, Abu withdrew his eyes. I don't know if this is to comfort Kaylin, Sun Wukong or to Sun Wukong and the prince. It seems that the two people who fought with Will heard Abu's words, and they both retreated from the world of Will at the same time. He was gasping for breath, as if he had just experienced some fierce battle, constantly breathing fresh air. Due to the long-term mental war, the two people were exhausted, and after they exited, the two collapsed to the ground. The two stared at each other fiercely, and Krillin and Gohan around looked at the two fighting with each other, feeling that the two of them were going to fight again at any time. But unexpectedly, they looked at each other for a while and suddenly laughed. Giggle, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. The laughter of the two people gradually expanded, and gradually the spaceship was filled with laughter of the two people. Seeing the two of them like this, Krillin and Gohan were a little stunned. They looked at each other and saw confusion in each other's eyes. Looking back at Abu not far away, Abu smiled evilly at them. Why are you looking at me? I suddenly found out that this beautiful girl is very beautiful and fell in love with me. Krillin and Gohan remained silent, and looked at Goku and the prince worriedly. Abu felt ignored and made a contemptuous voice. Are you two okay? Is there anything uncomfortable? Krillin couldn't help asking with a concerned look. The prince suddenly stretched out his hand to Goku. I didn't expect that you can do it. Let's compare it next time. Bye, will I be afraid of you? Humph. Although no one agrees with another, the aura between the two is somewhat different. There was a comfortable feeling in the spaceship, but at this time the spaceship interstellar warning sounded suddenly without warning. Abu's expression suddenly became tense. He quickly sat up and straightened his body. Quickly walking to the control system of the spacecraft, Abu frowned. I don't know what I found, but I saw that her hands were manipulating something nimbly. Abu, what happened? Why does the spaceship keep beeping? Could it be something wrong with the spaceship? Sun Wukong asked puzzled. The people around also looked at Abu puzzled. They didn't know the spaceship and thought it was something wrong with the spaceship. After all, it was just repaired. It's not that the spacecraft is out of order, it's that the spacecraft's detector detects the signal of a strange spacecraft around and automatically sends out an alarm. While answering Sun Wukong and the others, he controlled the buttons of the spaceship. Seriously pursed his lips. After answering their questions, he didn't say a word or even raised his head. Unlike the girl who was teasing just now. No matter how stupid they are, they know that the situation is not optimistic. The prince stepped forward and looked at the system of the ship. Oops, another ship is going faster than us and might be catching up with us soon. The people on the spaceship became nervous and kept looking at Abu in front of the spaceship. How far is the distance? Can't our spaceship accelerate? The prince asked cautiously. After all, everyone's life is on the spaceship, and he doesn't want to die in such a senseless way. Chapter 151 The Arrival of Beerus Sama. Chapter 151. The Arrival of the God of Destruction. No, our spacecraft has just suffered a heavy blow, and such overloaded driving will only damage our spacecraft early and crash it. Sun Wukong pulled his son behind him to protect him tightly, and explained earnestly. Wait a minute, if there's any danger, you hide behind Dad and don't come out, you know. Daddy, Gohan has grown up and can protect himself, Daddy don't have to worry about me. Sun Wukong took his father's hand and shook it constantly, as if he wanted to make Sun Wukong feel at ease. Sun Wukong glanced at Gohan with relief, but said nothing, but his expression was still very solemn. Everyone's eyes were constantly scanning the environment outside the spacecraft, for fear of sudden changes. A tense atmosphere permeated the spaceship, slowly fermenting, making everyone panic. They don't know what kind of danger they are about to face, and they don't want to be finished before they reach Namek. And Kling, who was too deeply affected by the war, timidly retreated into the corner of the spaceship, curled up, and hugged his legs. It seems that he can protect himself in this way. In this way, he can no longer find the shadow of the Krillin that year. Come and see, that spaceship sent us a signal to talk to us, which means that it will not attack our spaceship. Abu let out a long sigh of relief, shouted to the people behind him, and raised his brows a little excitedly. Our spaceship has just been repaired and is vulnerable, as long as it's not malicious. The connection is successful, the connection is successful, the connection is successful, came the sound of a system prompt from the spacecraft. Hurry up and open your cabin door and let Lao Su in. A mighty voice came from the spacecraft. It turns out that this is the god of destruction who abandoned us and said he has something to do. The thing is, Zhao Yi felt a little itchy when he saw the spaceship. After all, he had never driven a spaceship before and experienced how exciting it was. Unexpectedly, the body of this god of destruction would be hungry soon after opening. It's better to come early than to come by coincidence, just to find that there are other spaceships ahead. If you don't open the door for Lao Su will blow it up. A very domineering voice sounded in Abu's space capsule. Several people looked at each other and didn't speak. He stared at the spacecraft's sensors defensively. There was some dissatisfaction on the prince's face, and he shouted at the place where he was talking, "Who are you? Why do you open the door when you say it? Who am I? Ha, I'm your father. I'm the god of destruction." His dissatisfaction was revealed in his tone. The god of destruction in the other ship had an impatient look on his face. He stared at his big eyes and crossed his legs. His hands slapped his legs repeatedly, his tail flicked, and his every move showed his unhappiness. The prince on the other spaceship heard that it was the god of destruction, and was stunned for a moment. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up and open the hatch," he said loudly to Abu next to him. His expression hurried, and his anxious face turned red. God of destruction. Is it the god of destruction? Monkey King asked cautiously. That's right. Don't hurry to open the door. The prince was a little panicked. I'm so damn good at talking to him just now, I've provoked the god of destruction. Of the Saiyans, the Prince King, those people who are usually invincible, have to bow down when they see the god of destruction, and just now. I was a little scared in my heart, and my palms were sweating a lot, and I was very uneasy. Hurry up and wait for the arrival of the god of destruction at the door of the cabin, so that I can apologize for my behavior just now. I don't know if the god of destruction will care about this little guy like me, or not, no. The prince kept comforting himself in a low voice. Respectfully waiting at the cabin door, I saw the hatch of the spaceship slowly open. Shish! A cat shadow flashed in, and the speed was so fast that it was tongue-in-cheek. Plop! Sound. When everyone came back to their senses, they saw that the two figures were overlapping, one above and one below, and the one who fell to the ground was not the prince. Abu hurriedly covered his mouth. It was okay. And the figure above showed an evil and charming smile at this time, and stepped on the person under him with all his strength, causing the prince to snort and drag the hard foot with both hands. At this time, Zhao Yi looked at the stunned people present, and let go of the people under his feet. The prince couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Zhao Yi looked at this somewhat dilapidated spaceship at this time, and couldn't help showing disgust in his eyes. Can this piece of shit still move? He said, knocking on the bulkhead of the spaceship, and wiping his hands again. Walking to the entire spaceship control area, Abu looked at the person who was getting closer and closer, but his eyes did not fall on her. Get up and go. Zhao Yi pushed his hand lightly, and Abu flew and rolled directly to the side. Zhao Yi didn't care whether she was a woman or not, and she had to lean on the side of the obstacle. Sun Wukong quickly got up to catch Abu, and shouted at Zhao Yi, don't go too far. Before he could finish speaking, Zhao Yi waved his hand, and with a bang, Sun Wukong flew and hit the bulkhead. Chapter 152 Surrender or Die. Chapter 152, Surrender or Die. Dad. Hearing Sun Wufan, he rushed over and helped Sun Wukong, who was lying on the ground. Sun Wufan gritted his teeth and was about to rush towards the god of destruction, but Sun Wukong stopped Sun Wufan and shook his head at him. That is the god of destruction, the god of destruction, one of the few remaining gods, and we are no match for him. His power is terrifyingly powerful. Zhao Yi didn't have time to look at their father and son's deep love. He looked at the screen in front of him and found the flight route map, and then he showed a smile. After downloading the route map directly, he waved at the person behind him. I took this map, and as a reward, I can take you there with a piggyback, but you have to be obedient. Without waiting for their consent, they directly switched the spacecraft to self-destruction mode. Everyone stared at all this in a stunned manner, but there was no organized action, because they might not be able to get close to the god of destruction. The god of destruction swaggered directly to the passage of the two spaceships. The sound of the spacecraft alarm sounded from behind. XX spacecraft number 23 will self-destruct in 30 seconds, please be prepared. Everyone was startled and quickly followed Zhao Yi. However, Zhao Yi was not in a hurry, but the remaining few people were listening to the countdown, but they didn't dare to pass Zhao Yi directly, and they were embarrassed. In the last 10 seconds, Zhao Yi finally returned to his spaceship, and the rest of the people came in one after another. You, come here, Zhao Yi pointed to Abu. What? Buma widened her pupils. Why did she call herself? Your spaceship is just fine. This is the route map of Namixing. Disconnect the link between the two spaceships, and go. After saying that, he waved his hand and threw the downloaded device directly. Abu quickly caught it, watching Zhao Yi swallowing. What else are you looking at? Zhao Yi was a little impatient, and threw Abu to the pilot seat of the spacecraft with his fingers. The first thing Abu did was to disconnect the link between the two spaceships, and just heard a rumbling sound. Through the window, I saw that the dilapidated spaceship had completely exploded, leaving only a ray of fire. Abu looked a little stunned. He went through ups and downs with the spaceship for so long, and disappeared like this. The explosion outside was very loud, but there was no fluctuation in the nearest Zhao Yi's spaceship. Abu looked at the surrounding environment, including all the spaceship devices, not knowing how many times they were. Zhao Yi crossed Erlang's legs and sat on the luxurious lounge chair, watching everyone looking out the window, but Zhao Yi seemed to be watching a nice fireworks, but it wasn't too gorgeous. If I hadn't detected that you have the route map of that beautiful star, I would have sent you to death. After Zhao Yi finished speaking, he closed his eyes and leaned back in his chair. King Beta only felt ashamed that his dignity had been trampled on, so why did he meet him? He rubbed the chest that was almost crushed just now, and couldn't help but scolded fiercely, but this was heard by Zhao Yi who was just about to rest. Zhao Yi raised his fingers and controlled his thoughts. King Beta only felt that the face of the god of destruction appeared in front of him. He swallowed, full of fear of what was about to happen. Submit or die. Zhao Yi narrowed his eyes and looked at King Beta in front of him. King Beta only felt that looking at him in front of him, he seemed to be an ant, but his self-esteem did not allow him to surrender like this. Impossible, King Beta growled, shouting at Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi scratched his ears. It's too noisy, then you're going to die. After he finished speaking, his thoughts moved, whoosh. Boom. In a blink of an eye, King Beta was thrown out like a rag. A few people exclaimed. Seeing the blood of King Beta who fell to the ground, Sun Wukong gritted his teeth and fought. He rushed over directly, preparing to attack the god of destruction. Zhao Yi just glanced at it, dodged, and stood on the ground so fast. And Sun Wukong couldn't stop at this time. He rushed directly to the seat. Zhao Yi thought it was a bright cat, teased him, he came over, he would hide, and Sun Wukong's veins burst out every time he provokes. It's boring. After 2 or 3 rounds, Zhao Yi lost interest and kicked Sun Wukong into the air, leaving a deep pit mark on the wall of the spaceship, landing next to King Beta. I went back to the rest sofa, lay down and prepared to take a nap. Sun Wukong was about to get up and continued to struggle, but was caught by a hand. Looking sideways, it was King Beta who had just woken up. He shook his head at Sun Wukong, and they couldn't stop his move together. Sun Wukong gritted his teeth angrily, stood up, and just stood up, but was directly thrown to the ground by the god of destruction who got up at an unknown time. Zhao Yi squeezed Sun Wukong's neck with one hand and stepped on the severely injured Beta King again and again. The arrogance came from Zhao Yi, as if he was born with extraordinary bearing. Submit or die. At this time, Zhao Yi seemed to have lost his patience, and his strength became stronger. Chapter 153 Disappear for me. Chapter 153 Disappear for Lao Su. Let go of them, please, they surrender, don't kill them. Abu rushed to the god of destruction, his eyes full of fear. The god of destruction turned a blind eye, and used more force in his hands. Sun Wukong's face was flushed red, but he kept his mouth shut and refused to say a word. Dad, let go of my dad. Sun Gohan shouted at the god of destruction, even crying. Sun Wukong looked at Sun Wufan when he was still young. How could he bear to leave himself like this? Submit. Submit. I am willing. Sun Wukong closed his eyes and said hoarsely on his neck. Boom. As soon as Zhao Yi let go, Sun Wukong fell to the ground. Cough cough. Sun Wukong coughed loudly. Dressed in rough clothes, he had already felt the fear of death just now, and he didn't even have any chance to struggle. And King Beta at the foot also said twice to express his heart. Sun Wukong stood up and bent down. My respected god of destruction, I am willing to serve you. This may be Sun Wukong's most sincere thought at this moment. It is not shameful to submit to absolute power. Zhao Yi smiled and was very satisfied with this. Go and concentrate on driving your spaceship. Abu gave Abu a blank look, then sat back and ate the fruit next to him. Abu pouted and returned to the driver's seat. Just when Zhao Yi was about to go to Namixing when everything was going to be fine, Abu quickly tapped the spacecraft's driving system in the driving area. At this time, Abu's forehead was covered with thin beads of sweat, and he quickly entered a program with one program, which seemed to be a very troublesome problem to deal with. Zhao Yi was a little curious. What's wrong? Buma didn't have time to look back. An asteroid is about to intersect with our spacecraft. I'm calculating her trajectory. Zhao Yi sat up immediately, walked over directly, and operated the spaceship instead of Abu. Abu was stunned by the smooth movements and instructions. Compared with Abu, God of Destruction's hand speed was much better. It's too late, it's already here. Zhao Yi murmured. It was this sentence that caught everyone's attention. What's too late? Who's here? Everyone still doesn't know what happened to him. He calculated the trajectories of the planets and calculated that the probability of a collision was 100%. And the orbit of the planet is obviously too fast to imagine. What do I do now? Abu asked anxiously. This time it was no joke. A planet that told the operation was enough to destroy the spacecraft. Stop the spaceship. Zhao Yi looked at the relieved little light and said. What? Abu didn't seem to hear clearly. I told you to stop the spaceship. He yelled, and Abu quickly entered an emergency order for the spaceship to listen. When the spaceship stopped, the light spot had become the size of a fist, and it was still bigger, which proved to be getting closer. Everyone has experienced too many twists and turns along the way, but they did not expect to encounter such a thing at this moment. But Zhao Yi did something that surprised everyone. He opened the door of the spaceship and stood straight on it. Aim the door of the spaceship at the planet. Zhao Yi commanded. Abu had no doubts. The spaceship dispatched 180 degrees, and rushed Zhao Yi directly to the planet. The thing was getting closer and closer, rushing over with a desperate aura. Zhao Yi waved his cat's tail, smiled evilly, stretched out his hand, and closed his eyes. He could feel the planet, and he could feel every power in him. What is he going to do? King Beta sat up and asked Sun Wukong next to him. Sun Wukong clenched his fists and hugged Sun Wufan in his arms. It's too dangerous, stop now. Abu roared, but did not dare to leave the cab. I saw that because of the impact of the planet, the spacecraft had already shaken, just before the impact. Zhao Yi opened his eyes, and those joking eyes with stern eyes made everyone remember it. Give me away. Zhao Yi said word by word, gritted his teeth, opened one hand to face the planet, his eyes fixed on the planet, and the other hand covered the arm of that hand. Swish! A huge light appeared from Zhao Yi's hand, and everyone couldn't stand the strong light, so they blocked their sight with their hands. Abu opened his mouth wide and looked at everything in front of him. Even many years later, Abu did not forget this day, nor the god of destruction with a waving cat tail. His back figure entered her heart at that moment. I saw a hole in the middle of the planet made by the huge energy that burst out of the strong light in an instant, and it was split in half abruptly, just in time for the spaceship to be spared a disaster in the middle. When everyone came back to their senses, Zhao Yi shook his numb hand. "Close the door and go." As he said that, he walked in, but Abu hadn't regained his senses. "What are you thinking?" Zhao Yi walked in front of him, and when Abu came to his senses and saw him so close to him, his face flushed. Zhao Yi didn't know why, so he said to Abu, "I want to rest, call me when I'm almost there." "Oh, well," Abu stuttered in reply, but blushed again. Chapter 154 First Time to Namek. Chapter 154. First Arrival to Namek. "Lord God of Destruction, here we are." Sun Wukong cautiously shouted to the sleeping god of destruction beside him. At this time, he was sleeping soundly, as if he was in his own back garden, and he was not afraid that someone would harm him. Sun Wukong called out twice, but the god of destruction didn't make any movement, only the sound of gasping for sleep. "Look, it's Namek." Abu's exclamation alarmed everyone, and the first to come was King Beta. At this time, King Beta was wrapped with a thick bandage on his left hand, and a thick bow was tied with the bandage on his head, looking at an inexplicable joy. It was a fortune among the misfortunes that it was a fluke or just an injury to the arm under the god of destruction. King Beta looked at the green planet that seemed to be very small now, and couldn't help grinning. He was about to laugh, but the wound on his face was involved, and he couldn't help but groan. Bu Ma couldn't help but burst out laughing, it was so funny. Namek is very far away from the Earth. In order to go to Namek, it took a few people to see the scene at this moment. I don't know where the god of destruction is chasing after him. The sound of a few people's teasing made Zhao Yi, who was sleeping comfortably, wake up. "You guys are so noisy." Zhao Yi impatiently threw the water cup next to him, which happened to hit King Beta's head again. With a bang, I saw the cup shattered on the ground, and before King Beta could react, another big bag appeared on his head. "Booma quickly and simply deal with him. Why is it always me who gets hurt?" King Beta can't help crying. Sun Wukong rubbed his itchy nose. "Alas, who made you so loud?" raised his eyebrows, and waved at King Beta. Zhao Yi sat up and knocked on his head. He had to rest when he used up his strength, and disturbing his sleep would be damned. The god of destruction sat up and saw the scene outside the window. The spacecraft was approaching the beautiful green planet, not Namek. How long will it take to arrive? Zhao Yi jumped up and walked to Abu's side, staring at the scene outside, looking at the route map. For some reason, Abu, every time the god of destruction approached him, she felt afraid to look directly at him, and Xiaolu's heart was pounding. If there is no accident, it will soon be possible to pass through the outer atmosphere of Namek. Abu calmed down and said lightly. The god of destruction was happy, and rubbed his hands in excitement. The dim light in his eyes flickered, and his heart couldn't help but feel at ease. When it comes to the excitement of the god of destruction, it is not only the Dragon Balls that have been guarded on this planet, but also a heritage exercise that attracts the god of destruction. Zhao Yi accidentally learned from Weiss that the exercise finally appeared on Namek. Zhao Yi couldn't control his excitement, so he drove the spaceship to go to Namek, but unexpectedly discovered that he had lost the route map. This is what happened before, and I met these people. At this moment, Namek has completely appeared in front of everyone. With the high pressure, the spacecraft finally broke through the atmosphere of Namek. A green world cannot help but make everyone feel happy. Sun Wufan was lying on the window with his mouth wide open, his eyes looking at the planet. He couldn't help shaking his hands, he was very excited. Dad, are we going to see Uncle Piccolo? Seeing the innocent Gohan, Sun Wukong couldn't help but smiled and nodded. Your Uncle Piccolo is on Namek. Sun Wukong still couldn't bear to lose Son Gohan's hope. Sun Wukong couldn't help but sigh with emotion when he looked at this planet. This is Piccolo's hometown. After a while, Abu found the location and prepared to land the spacecraft. At this time, Zhao Yi directly opened the door of the spaceship, and everyone exclaimed. Before everyone could react, he jumped straight down. Sun Wukong looked at it and couldn't help twitching the corners of his mouth. At this time, Zhao Yi really couldn't bear his temper. He wished he could just rush over now. How could he wait for the spaceship to land when he had time? The wind blew on Zhao Yi's face and hurt. Under the huge force, Zhao Yi's speed became faster. The landing place was in a crop field. As Zhao Yi got closer to the ground, the things on the ground became more and more clear. Zhao Yi stepped directly under his feet, and with a flick of the cat's tail, he landed straight on the ground, but it still left a small hole on the ground, and a thud sounded along with it. After bringing the dust away, Zhao Yi could see the situation around him clearly. There were many Nameks nearby doing farm work in pairs, and he was a little stunned by the cat that fell from the sky in front of him. It was as if time and space had stopped, and they were all looking at Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi stood up straight and ignored them. With a slight jump, he left everyone's sight. Zhao Yi is now full of thoughts about the inheritance. He must find the Great Elder quickly. This time, when he comes to Namek, he must make a quick decision. Thinking of inheritance, Zhao Yi couldn't help speeding up his steps excitedly. Chapter 155 Beerus Sama, Be Merciful. Chapter 155, Lord God of Destruction, Be Merciful. Zhao Yi had obviously forgotten the existence of other people on the spaceship, and rushed straight to the nearest island. When a few got off the spaceship, the existence of the God of Destruction has long been invisible. What about this spaceship? Abu swallowed and asked, not to leave it alone. But King Beta didn't care. It looks like that guy needs it anyway, just do whatever you want. As he spoke, he walked forward with his injured arm. Everyone had no choice but to mark them and follow them together. Where are we now? Monkey King asked Abu while pulling Son Gohan. Abu frowned and looked at the map carefully. The place where we landed now is on a somewhat remote island, and it is not yet possible to pinpoint which village Dragon Ball is in. Abu carefully studied this and gave Sun Wukong an answer. Try it with radar, Sun Wukong suggested. Abu took out the radar and searched for the relevant information back and forth. In the end, he was tired and panting. It's too far. It needs to be closer to display the specific location. Everyone had no choice but to set off towards the nearest island. At this time, the God of Destruction had already locked his target, and it didn't take long before he came to the river that spanned the two islands. At this time, the radar in his hand was beeping. Zhao Yi couldn't help but snickered. It seemed that hope was not far away. He looked up at the blue sky. This Namek has no night, and the 4 seasons are like summer. It is really a good place for vacation. Not knowing what happened to Weiss now, Zhao Yi shook his head, thinking about how to get to the other side, when a boat came over. Zhao Yi jumped directly onto the wooden boat with a slight jump. On the boat was a fat-looking Namek, whose big green head always reminded Zhao Yi of Wintermelon. Go there. Standing firm, Zhao Yi pointed directly to the other side. You, who are you? Let me down. He picked up the oar and patted it directly. Zhao Yi sighed and waved his hand directly, and the man fell directly into the water. He simply ignored it, let the man slosh in the water, and went straight to the other side in the boat. Zhao Yi was lying on it, and the boat was swaying neither lightly nor heavy, which made him want to fall asleep again and again, but when he thought of the inheritance, his eyes flashed with excitement. After a while, Zhao Yi controlled the boat to come to the shore, and as soon as his legs climbed, he lightly landed on the shore. Zhao Yi is getting used to his cat-like body now. As soon as they landed on the shore, the dripping sounded again. Zhao Yi picked up the radar suspiciously, only to find that the signal was a little weak, and it was no longer displayed at this time. Zhao Yi really wanted to throw the radar directly into the water, thinking that it was still useful, so he could only give up. He got up and looked around, jumped into the air, jumped to a tree, and the radar signal pointed straight to a village. Zhao Yi quickly took a few jumps in the air and rushed over. At this time, the village was peaceful, and the village chief of this village was saying this along with the elder. As soon as Zhao Yi arrived in the village, he grabbed someone and asked, "Where is your village chief?" The man was grabbed by the collar, and suddenly frightened, his hand trembled and pointed inside. Zhao Yi casually threw the person aside, he despised such useless people the most. "Forget it." Zhao Yi simply stood directly on the street. He shouted directly, "The village head and elders of this place are not ready to come out and see Lao Su." This confident sentence exploded instantly in this small village. The village chief and the first elder who just heard are even more angry. "Where are the people who are running wild here? Don't be rude, little kid Wonko." Hearing that the village snorted loudly, he immediately followed the elder and rushed out. Seeing the two people getting closer and closer, Zhao Yi couldn't help showing a mocking smile. The two attacked directly. Seeing that the attack was in front of him, Zhao Yi stood up straight instead of hiding. With a light block of his hand, the attack wave was immediately resolved. "Who are you?" Zhao Yi made a claw with one hand, grabbed it directly from the void, and pinched the village chief directly in front of him. The village chief patted Zhao Yi's hand hard, as if he was about to die in the next moment. Seeing this, the elder immediately attacked Zhao Yi with a single blow, and Zhao Yi threw the village chief out. The elder could no longer recover his strength, and hit the village chief abruptly. The village chief fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Who are you, and what do you want to do?" The village chief pointed at him with a trembling hand. "If you die, you will know who I am." Zhao Yi stretched out his cat's paw to give the village chief the final blow. At this time, the elder shouted loudly, "Lord God of Destruction, be merciful." Zhao Yi withdrew his hand. "Oh, do you know who I am?" The elder directly helped the village head up, and the village head obviously hadn't reacted to this. Looking straight at Zhao Yi, "This is actually the God of Destruction, the God of Destruction." Chapter 156 Stubborn Elder. Chapter 156. The Stubborn Elder. "God of Destruction, what are you doing here?" The village chief suddenly bowed timidly to Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi walked forward and looked down at him disdainfully. "Where is the inheritance method left by the great demon King Piccolo?" The voice was indifferent and low. The village chief suddenly lowered his head solemnly, unable to restrain his nervous expression. "This. Zhao Yi was a little impatient. He frowned at this moment, and took a step forward. Beads of sweat the size of the village chief slid across his face. This god of destruction could easily destroy the planet. "Please come to my house to talk in detail." The village chief swallowed, stood up, and made a gesture of invitation straight at the god of destruction. Zhao Yi slowly flicked his cat's tail and walked into the village chief's yard. The village chief quickly found a stool, and the god of destruction sat down. Staring straight at the village chief with squinted eyes, the danger is self-evident. "Master God of Destruction, to tell you the truth, the inheritance is not here." "Are you kidding me?" Zhao Yi angrily grabbed him to his feet. He hurriedly knelt down and begged for mercy, waving his hands all the time. "No, my lord, that inheritance was hidden in several places by the great demon king." "Really?" Zhao Yi then let go of his hand and threw it aside. The village chief ran into the house and crawled, only to see a quaint box in his hand when he came out. This box is an inheritance left over from the legend, but it is incomplete. The god of destruction finally softened a bit, took the box and opened it, only to find that there was a key inside. "What now?" Bruce asked. "Here is one of the keys to open the inheritance cave." The village chief wiped his sweat and crawls beside him, for fear of offending the god of plague again. "Where are the others?" Zhao Yi took the key and threw the box on the ground. The box thrown on the ground smashed several pieces on the ground with a bang. Zhao Yi glanced at it and found that there seemed to be something hidden in the middle of the box. When I picked it up, I found that there was a layer in the middle of the box, and as the box shattered, a half-sheet of sheepskin map fell out, and the general islands were recorded on it. God of Destruction squinted his eyes and smiled coldly. It seemed that it didn't take much time. Just as he was about to get up and leave, a hand suddenly stopped in front of him. You can't take it away. It was left by the great demon King Piccolo to the Namek people. The elder stood up, frowned and waited for the God of Destruction, and said firmly. God of Destruction didn't even look at it, just waved his hand, and the elder flew far away. Zhao Yi was not in the mood to waste time with him, but the elder stretched his arms without giving up and waved at Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi didn't move at all, only to see one hand behind him, one straight in front of him, and one finger to take all his moves. After about a dozen laps, the God of Destruction suddenly disappeared. The big elder came back to his senses. Get out of the way. I saw the village chief on the ground shouted. The elder raised his head and fired a wave of air cannons directly at the God of Destruction above. The air cannon hit directly, and a huge black smoke filled the air. The elder was a little overjoyed. Just as he raised his mouth, he saw the God of Destruction appearing in front of him. The elder fired a cannon again, but this time, the God of Destruction directly stabilized his body and directly caught the air cannon with one finger. Turn around. Give it back to you. Zhao Yi smiled charmingly. With a flick of his finger, the compressed air hit the elder directly, and the elder slammed to the ground, sinking into the ground to a depth of 1 meter, and was already unconscious at this time. Elder, the village chief shouted and rushed over. It's boring. Zhao Yi snorted. With a sigh, he left in front of the two of them. When the village chief saw this, he hugged the elder and wailed directly. As soon as Zhao Yi moved, he appeared by the river and stretched out his hand to look at the half of the map. At this moment, the sensor rang, and a figure fell directly behind Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi smiled but didn't look back. You're here. Visitor nodded. I'm late, God of Destruction, and brought you dessert. As he said that, he took out a beautiful box and handed it over. Yes, the person who came was Wes. Zhao Yi opened the box in his hand, and it turned out to be a small cake. Zhao Yi was hungry at this moment. Where did it come from? Zhao Yi asked after gagging. Weiss held the hand pole and replied inadvertently. I went to Earth and brought you a little gift by the way. Not bad, he said, giving Weiss an approving look. Weiss looked at the map in his hand and understood a bit. I found it. I thought it was just a rumor. Zhao Yi pursed his lips, squinting his eyes and looking ahead, but I need to go a few more places. Weiss bowed slightly to show respect. Weiss is willing to follow. Where are you going now? Zhao Yi looked at the map, unfolded it, and pointed to a room. It's all right here. After Weiss listened, he tapped the hand stick in his hand lightly, and a beam of light flew into the distance, leaving only the cake box on the ground. Chapter 157 Saktra's Second Key. Chapter 157 Saktra's Second Key. A ray of light fell on a mountain, and when the ray of light dissipated, it was the God of Destruction and Whis. Whis sullenly looked at the environment in front of him and was very unhappy. Below the mountain is a vast desert, and when the wind blows, you can even feel the sand entering your mouth. Zhao Yi frowned and looked at the map. Are you sure it's right here, Weiss? He questioned, but in exchange, Wes nodded blankly. Zhao Yi curled his lips helplessly. There is no human figure in this large desert, so there is no inheritance. The two of them wrapped a gasification shield around them to prevent the wind and sand from blowing over. Zhao Yi pouted in disgust, and couldn't help but think, I'm a clean freak. Looking at this sandstorm in the sky, I can't help but feel angry. Whis stood behind him, the stick in hand, keeping the shield, and the two wandered the void above to find some traces. The two of them searched carefully along one end, but found nothing. Zhao Yi became more and more impatient, and wished that he could directly destroy this ruined planet with one palm. Weiss restrained him, otherwise Zhao Yi would leave this ghost place in minutes, remembering the inheritance, and restrained again. The two flew to a stone wall to take a rest, but they saw a house that seemed to be still inhabited. Zhao Yi froze, turned his eyes, and let Weiss stay where he was, while he flew over to check. An old man was sitting at the door editing something in his hand. Zhao Yi walked over and coughed twice, but the old man was unmoved. The old man seemed to be very old. Everyone in Namek had an exceptionally long life, so Zhao Yi didn't know how old he was. The old man didn't raise his head, but said to himself, "This ghost weather must be holding something and it won't stop." "What?" Zhao Yi asked suspiciously. The old man seemed to be still talking to himself. Zhao Yi was a little impatient, and directly protected the old man inside. Only then did Zhao Yi clearly hear what the old man said. The old man didn't seem to see Zhao Yi's existence at all. "The cave has been around for many years, and it happens several times every few days. That thing is very strange. It is said that there are treasures in it, and many people have died." After listening to this, Bruce flew directly to Wes's side. "There is a cave in the north, keep an eye out." The two disappeared in a flash. After the god of destruction and Wes disappeared, the old man raised his head, his eyes showed a shrewd light. The thing had been silent for too long. The god of destruction and Weiss went directly to the farthest north. After checking, they found a cave on a rock wall. When they were close to the cave, the wind was several times the wind outside. "Help! Help!" A weak voice came from the cave, and suddenly another scream disappeared. "Zhao Yi is not the savior of the world. He should be greedy for something when he enters this cave, and he should pay the price he deserves." "It's too much," Zhao Yi muttered, frowned, squinted his eyes, and flicked his cat's tail to the entrance of the cave. Wes strengthened the shields of the two and entered the cave smoothly. The feeling of the cave was different from the weather outside. The outside was dry, but the inside was very humid and gloomy. The two walked a few steps, and they could still see the blood on the ground. Zhao Yi frowned displeased. It's really dirty." He pinched his nose. Weiss directly picked up the staff, and the blood on the ground disappeared in an instant. Zhao Yi nodded in appreciation, and he really enjoyed being outside with Weiss. Zhao Yi walked slowly here with the tail of the cat, but there was no movement. Suddenly, a low roar came, which seemed to be a warning, with some anger. Zhao Yi didn't take it seriously, and walked directly inside without making the slightest stop. The voice seemed a little displeased, but it roared again. The god of destruction continued to follow Weiss toward the inside as if he didn't hear it, and suddenly a roar accompanied by a huge object flew over from Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi raised his hand lightly and disappeared on the spot. The leopard swooped in the air, and Zhao Yi appeared above to see the huge yellow monster that looked like a leopard. The red eyes were sniffing at the prey at this time. It was huge but still very flexible. He jumped straight up and opened his mouth to directly pounce on Zhao Yi. It was as if the leopard had turned into a cat in his hands, and he threw it out. The leopard let out a cry, and a lot of gravel fell off the wall. The leopard was still trying to stand up, but the god of destruction came close. A punch hit the leopard's head. The leopard died without making a sound, and the god of destruction waved his hand at Weiss and said, "I want his skin." Weiss nodded, yes. Only at this moment did Zhao Yi realize that there was an organ in there. Zhao Yi smashed it open with brute force, and there was a yellow key inside. Weiss looked at the broken mechanism. "It looks like it can be opened with a key." "Really?" Zhao Yi rolled his eyes, playing with the key he just got. "Why is it so troublesome?" Chapter 158 Missing the third key. Chapter 158 is the third key missing. "Master Destroyer, would you like to try it? It's delicious." Weiss looked at the god of destruction with a pissed-off face. He was stuffing a lunchbox into his mouth. The two of them were at the beauty star in a forest. Zhao Yi glanced at his mouth. "It doesn't look very delicious. You should eat it yourself." He glanced at Weiss with contempt. When can this tone of speech be changed? Zhao Yi squinted his dark purple eyes and looked at Weiss, eating the lunchbox with a smile, but his face seemed to be happy. "I glanced at the half of the map casually. and when my hand changed, the two keys appeared in front of me. Zhao Yi stared at the map closely. There was another one recorded in this half of the map. He couldn't help but mention Wes next to him. Hurry up, go here, and pointed to a Yemen peninsula on the map. Come on, Lord God of Destruction. After speaking, he placed the lunchbox neatly in a ceremonial manner, took out a tissue, wiped his mouth, and wrapped it again. Zhao Yi really wanted to give him a big wink. At this time, Weiss took out his staff. Zhao Yi put his hand on him, tapped the staff lightly, and a ray of light emerged and wrapped the two of them, disappearing in place. The two traveled in the light for a few minutes before arriving on the Yemen peninsula. Zhao Yi stood up straight and looked at Wes, who was on the side. The place where the two landed was on the side of the island. Zhao Yi opened the map and took a closer look. The map was a bit old, but the handwriting on it was blurred. This made Zhao Yi very impatient. This island was no different from other places. The sun was shining brightly. At this time, there were still children laughing and playing by the river. God of Destruction, should we go and ask the steward of this place? Weiss said to the God of Destruction with a smile on his face. Zhao Yi nodded in agreement. Weiss came to a nearby village with a scepter, and the village chief had already received the news of the arrival of the God of Destruction, and he has been waiting for the arrival of the God of Destruction for the past few days. At this time, he was pacing in the courtyard, but he didn't know that the God of Destruction in the sky had been watching him for a while. Weiss looked down at the old man walking back and forth below, and knocked on his staff. Do you know where the heritage of Yemen is hidden? After speaking, he smiled faintly. As soon as the man heard it, he looked up and saw Wes standing behind the God of Destruction. The God of Destruction was clasping his ears boringly, and the cat's tail flicked, with an impatient look on his face. I have seen the God of Destruction. He knelt down with a bang. Zhao Yi waved his hand casually. People are afraid of being famous and pigs are afraid of being strong. Where is the heritage hidden here? Master God of Destruction, to tell you the truth, knowing that you are coming, I sent someone to fetch the inheritance early in the morning. Oh, is that so? Zhao Yi raised his brows slightly and asked suspiciously. Don't dare to deceive the God of Destruction. You are more interesting than those two guys. Naturally, he was talking about the village chief and elder who were beaten by Zhao Yi. When the man heard it, he was shocked and sweated, and quickly raised his hand to wipe it. If the God of Destruction doesn't dislike it, you can sit down and wait for a while. The old man specially prepared cookies for the Lord. I'm not interested. Zhao Yi waved his hand and landed on the ground with Wes. He found a place to sit down at will, ready to wait for the inheritance. When the village chief saw this, he was afraid that he might provoke the God of Destruction, so he quickly took out the freshly squeezed juice from the house and put it in front of the God of Destruction. Seeing this, Zhao Yi was really thirsty, so he picked it up and drank it. Immediately, he said, I am going to have a cup. After saying that, he threw the cup over. The man was so excited that he continued to squeeze the juice again. At this time, when Sun Wukong and others arrived at the elder's place, they saw two miserable people. Without thinking, they knew that it was the God of Destruction, and they successfully got the first Dragon Ball. Because Abu doesn't know how to dance, everyone can only rely on her all the way, so the journey is quite slow. Speaking of Bruce, Zhao Yi drank 3 glasses of juice in a row, and finally couldn't bear it any longer, and kicked the village chief to the ground. You play me, Zhao Yi said fiercely. Master Bruce, no, really not. He shook his hands vigorously. Don't be angry, don't be angry. Weiss gently patted Zhao Yi next to him. Zhao Yi couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart, and he always felt uncomfortable being touched by Weiss. Master Bruce, do you hate me? Seeing this, Weiss asked Zhao Yi pitifully with tears in his eyes and mist in his eyes. No, no, Zhao Yi waved his hand, stopped looking at him, and let go of the person under his feet. The village chief, it's not good. Suddenly, a man broke in and shouted loudly at the village chief. Zhao Yi was shocked. The village chief, that thing is gone. Village chief suddenly felt a tightness in his heart. How is it possible? Don't talk nonsense, how can it not be seen? When we went, the whole cave was empty and the box was opened. PFF'd, the village chief took 2 steps back and knelt down directly on the ground. This is, how good is this? I just made a package with the god of destruction. Over. It's over. It's really over now. Chapter 159 Coveting the Gods. The 159th chapter coveted the things of the god. Lord God of Destruction, the villain is ineffective in taking care of him. As soon as he turned his head, there was nowhere to see the figure of the god of destruction. The 2 of them just dodged and went to the cave. As soon as Zhao Yi arrived at the entrance of the cave, he rushed in. There were many dead bodies of Namek people inside. Zhao Yi frowned. I found the preserved stone bench. The organ has already been opened, and the things inside have disappeared. Zhao Yi frowned and didn't speak, but he cursed a few times in his heart. Whis also saw that the god of destruction was angry, and quietly dealt with the corpses, and stood behind him silently. Zhao Yi thought for a while, then walked out. When he was about to go out, he raised his hand lightly. A sesame-sized ball of light formed at the tip of his hand and threw it directly into the hole. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, an explosion, just now. The cave has been turned into a large embedded pit. Zhao Yi picked up the 2 keys he had already obtained, and suddenly the 2 keys flew straight out as soon as they saw the light. Zhao Yi shook his head, and the 2 of them chased after him. The 2 keys shone brightly for a long time before they stopped. Bruce grabbed them directly, and the 2 keys were returned to his hands. Zhao Yi was a little puzzled. How could the 2 keys be different? At this time, a loud voice came through, and Zhao Yi, who was in the air, could not hear clearly. He looked down to find the source of the sound. Below is a large forest. Each tree is a century-old tree. Zhao Yi sat on the branch of a tree casually, swayed his legs, and swayed his cat's tail. Wes stood behind him and looked down at the people below. People. Zhao Yi seemed to be a little dissatisfied with the tree he had chosen. It seemed that the view was not very good, so he leaned forward again, and Weiss followed with a smiley face, and even turned out a cushion and threw himself on it. Zhao Yi gave Visby a thumbs up, and Vis said yes with a smile. The 2 groups below are both Namekians, and they seem to be ancient primitive tribes, with strange symbols painted on their bodies. Zhao Yi looked at it for a while and then got a general idea. Now that all the forces are holding the key, Zhao Yi can feel the existence of that thing, and he even heard half of the map mentioned. The strength of the 2 sides here is too tense, while the god of destruction and Wes are starting a picnic on the tree. When the god of destruction comes up with all kinds of food, Zhao Yi is completely stunned, thinking that the god of destruction himself loves food. The guy, he seems to be affected by memory and can't resist eating. Here, Zhao Yi just opened the chopsticks and the war started. Here, Zhao Yi just picked up a piece of sushi and fell to the ground alone. Zhao Yi chewed on the sushi, then watched the battle below, and quietly helped him to see which one was weak. In a move that could have been dodged by accident, he made him unable to move. Zhao Yi was like watching TV over and over after eating, and after eating some desserts, there was only 1 plate of melon seeds left. Zhao Yi calmly drank water, and then stood up. How long will it take? Zhao Yi also slapped him, but his brain might be a little deprived of oxygen just after eating. These people suddenly heard the sound, and they all looked up together. There were a few unidentified little ones who had their eyes red and shouted at Zhao Yi. Taking over Zhao Yi, he took out his ears, and with a wave of his hand, he flew out and broke his breath. By Lord God of Destruction, suddenly a green guy who seemed to be the head bowed deeply towards Zhao Yi. Everyone suddenly realized that the person in front of him was not the God of Destruction, Lord God of Destruction. Now that you know it's me, take out the things. Zhao Yi jumped lightly and landed on the ground, squinting his dark purple eyes dangerously. The man gritted his teeth, his body was getting lower and lower, and he was holding the small bag around his waist in his hand, and he didn't let go. It's you who coveted the things of this god. Then he glared, and the man flew out and hit a tree before stopping. The man got up, clenched his fists, and threw the bag in his hand directly, a small beauty star who caught it and ran away. Zhao Yi couldn't help laughing. It's been a long time since no one had the idea of running away in front of me. Weiss, he said softly. Weiss tapped the staff lightly, forming a transparent wall of light around him. Zhao Yi slowly opened his eyes, and in such a moment, a huge wave emanated from him, and the surrounding trees were uprooted directly against the wall of light due to the impact, and Weiss and Zhao Yi stood calmly. On. Everyone, including the trees, smashed directly on the wall of light, and in an instant, the power stopped. There seems to be a clearing in the middle. Zhao Yi walked forward step by step with disdain. The light wall disappeared. A mess. He grabbed the bag in the air and received it. Lord Van Russ. Zhao Yi glanced back. As my reward, you can die. After he finished speaking, a ball of light ended his breath. Chapter 160 Black-Faced Beerus. Chapter 160 The God of Destruction with Black Lines. Not long after Zhao Yi left, a person appeared in the void. It was the Great Elder. When he saw the deep pit, he couldn't help shaking his head. He only hoped that the God of Destruction didn't have the idea of destroying Namek. And Wukong and the others have been walking and stopping all the way, as if they are traveling to Namek, and they have no idea what happened. When Wukong and others saw the Great Elder, they saw his face full of sadness. Elder, Elder. Sun Wukong shouted over and over to the Elder, who didn't know what he was thinking at this time. When he first saw the Elder, he was absent-minded, as if he had been thinking about something. Ah, the Elder was obviously taken aback. His beard was raised high, and he obviously didn't react at all. Wukong, when did you come? The Elder was clearly ordered by the whole group of people in front of him. At this moment, Sun Wukong couldn't wait to fall to the ground. Elder, we have been here for a long time, and it is you who poured the water. Oh, old, confused. The Elder could only smile awkwardly. He was now full of things about God of Destruction. Is something wrong with you? Wukong suddenly appeared behind the Elder and said quietly. No, the Elder waved his hand, obviously not wanting to say more. Then I guess, is it because the God of Destruction has not left yet? Sun Wukong smiled brightly and looked at the Elder. The Great Elder nodded unconsciously. After regaining his senses, he obviously shook his head again. Before Wukong could finish speaking, suddenly the heaven and the earth burst, and a powerful wave swept the entire Namek. The Elder sighed deeply. It turned out that the third key in the Intiges had already fallen into Zhao Yi's hands, and that thing was protected by a powerful formation. Zhao Yi, regardless of the rest, waved his hand and blasted it, directly breaking the formation. Got the third key. Weiss directly took Zhao Yi to the next location. The huge fluctuation even caused everyone on the entire Namek planet. Some houses even collapsed, and the nearby Hedi even collapsed. At this time, Wukong came here only for one purpose, to find Dragon Ball and resurrect Piccolo. Looking at the elders at this time, it is obvious that he has no mind, and Wukong is not good to mention it, but he does not know why the God of Destruction has stayed here for so long this time. At this time, Zhao Yi had a smug look on his face. He still had a key, and the inheritance was in his hands. The two shuttled through the beam of light. Whis looked at the smug look on the God of Destruction and couldn't help but lean together. The God of Destruction is actually smiling. Weiss leaned over with an incredulous look on his face. Zhao Yi was too lazy to pay attention to him, so he turned his face away. Hey, this is the only place left. He pointed to Itanye. Zhao Yi leaned over and took a look. It was strange to say that the three keys were all in one place, but this one was at the very top of Namek. And what Zhao Yi didn't expect the most was that when the two arrived, they found that the place was a little smaller on the map, and when he saw it with his own eyes, Zhao Yi uttered a foul language, your sister. Weiss did not understand, but did not open his mouth. The island in front of him was said to be an island, and the two of them were a little crowded. Is there a heritage here? Zhao Yi couldn't help but see 3 black lines on his head. Is this an island? And a name? This is a reef. Are you sure? It's here. Zhao Yi endured his impending eruption and pointed to the small rock below. Weiss looked at it carefully, and nodded vigorously like garlic. Yes, it's here. Zhao Yi flew over and stood on it, surrounded by a sea of Wang Yang. The seawater rushed to the stone and the waves could be discharged. He stood on the stone where only 2 people stood, looking at the endless sea around him, his face darkened. Thorough. Taking out the keys, he saw that there was no response from the 3 keys. At this moment, Zhao Yi seemed to have 10,000 grass and mud horses galloping past. Unable to bear, he threw the key directly on the stone and stepped on it heavily. These feet don't matter, but they emit a dazzling light. Weiss leaned over in amazement. Could it be that this inheritance is still a masochist? Zhao Yi slapped him in the face with a slap. When was this guy not such a bitch? When the light faded, the whole stone began to vibrate. Zhao Yi flew up, and after the violent vibration of the stone, it gave off a faint purple light, and the light faded and the keys merged together, leaving only a fusion of several keys in the air. The key from the head to the end of the key seemed to be a splicing of several keys. Zhao Yi grabbed it and left with Wes. The 2 of them just got the last place of inheritance, and it was actually the place where they found the first key. Inside the beam of light, Zhao Yi scolded fiercely, "Is this a joke?" Running back and forth, when Lao Su got it, he blasted this broken planet. Seeing this, Weiss couldn't help snickering. This god of destruction was still as moody as his temperament. He was still smiling just now, but now his face is full of rage.